record. All right, so
Okay.
we are good to go. So okay. I also have the document up. So I'll let you begin. Like, where did you go with this site?
So I just sort of started scrolling through it and clicking on things that caught my eye. So I work in the finance sector. So I'm not an education major. This is an elective class for me. Um, so being that I work in finance, of course, all of the data and numbers scream
Uh-huh.
out at me. So the 18 in the Bay poll, where it was taught they were the gender, the ethnicity, what languages they speak at home, what they're nervous about, and what makes them mad.
Yeah.
So that one was really interesting to me. And then when you scroll down even farther, there's how they spend their time, what they think about,
Yeah.
how they would spend their money. I found that one really interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I found first of all, the entire court, I guess it's a course kind of thing.
yeah.
Interesting. Like, I was kind of like, at first I was like, well, this is weird because like they're only 18 and they're telling me how to live my life. Um, but then I was like, wait a minute, they're really just telling me how to live my life in high school, which I thought was interesting. And it focused really on what society is all about nowadays. Yes.
And what their life is about, which is so I don't know if it's different just because obviously they live in San Francisco, and I grew up in a small rural town in Oregon, so it's like a totally different world all on its own.
Uh-huh.
But I also just feel like it's so different just because of phone, social media and phones, because how I spend my time, the amount of time people would mark off they spent on their phone or on social
Right.
media. When I was in high school, that wouldn't have even been on my chart.
I mean, I thought it was pretty impressive impressive or amazing that the third thing you see when you're scrolling just down the main page is Snapchat.
Yes, which I still don't even use.
Oh, come on, you got to get with the times now.
I know. I'm I have two little kids. I have a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, and I'm I am in so much trouble when they figure out technology because I'm so behind.
I am a Snapchatter, and then I just switched schools. I work at a school that they block Snapchat on the Wi-Fi.
Oh
So
my gosh.
come on, how am I supposed to Snapchat all day? And their cell service isn't strong enough to hold up for Snapchat. So I understand these seniors and
Wow.
18-year-olds pain. I get it.
I thought there was a lot of really heavy stuff in here for being just seniors in high school.
Yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of my time in the section of story of my life,
Mm-hmm.
which was very deep. I mean, all of a sudden they were talking, it was a story about somebody's depression. I was like, whoa, that escalated really quick.
Yes, and there's one a second chance after she tried to commit suicide, and one where their mom was going blind, and
Yeah.
I'm gosh, some of it's so crazy to me how some of this goes from typical teenage stuff of how much they just they want to be done with school and they want to move out and live on
Right.
their own, and then the next article is about I tried to commit suicide and I have a second chance and I'm so glad I do, and I'm whoa, those are two totally different
Right.
ends of the spectrum.
It went really far. It went really deep, really fast is really what happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think being a teenager is hard now, harder than when I was a teenager.
Right. I mean, mine, it wasn't all that long ago, but I even think it's different. I mean, now that I teach the middle school level, and it's so different.
Yeah, there was no social media. Texting was just starting when I was in high school. So
So,
none of my mistakes I made are out there for everybody to see and judge
right,
me on the rest of my life.
right. Um, no, I mean, I thought when I went to the Urban Dictionary part of it, actually, at first, and I was like, oh, that's what I'm interested in. And I got very confused. And I tend to consider myself relatively knowledgeable in texting lingo, but then I
Yeah.
read this and I said, maybe I'm not so knowledgeable.
Well, and I think too, it's so, I think part of that too just shows how different it can be based on where you live.
Right.
Like these are high schoolers in San Francisco. I mean, I have close friends who are high school teachers, and I actually showed them this, and I was like, "Is this how kids talk at school?" Like, she's like, "That's not how any of my students talk."
I subbed for a teacher yesterday and for a writing class, and they were given like a prompt, and they had to fill in this, like, finish the story, and it was like they'd write 2 paragraphs. And so he was done, and they had to print it and give it to me so I could turn it into the teacher. And I started reading it because he was like done super early, and I was like, why is everybody else still working and he's done? So I read the story, and then I get to the whole second paragraph. The entire second paragraph is all in texting lingo, and like the U's just became the letter U. It said, where have you been? And bin was spelled BIN. And I was like, oh man, this is sad, because he actually doesn't realize he did it.
Yeah, because you're just so used to it. It's just so, I don't know. I think it's just like, it's made me realize like how weird 18 is. And that's one thing I think that hasn't changed at all about being 18, is that it's such a weird spot to be between being a kid and being an adult. And you think you know everything, but you don't know much.
Right. Like you think right. Like these 18-year-olds, like they think they know a lot, that they wrote this entire site.
I know.
But like realistically, what do they know?
And then I'm reading it and I'm like,
Like, do you
or like when I was like the what is the survival guide to high school, save the turnips for the weekend and other words of wisdom. And I'm like, yeah, right. If you're getting completely wasted every weekend, even if it's just the weekends, it's going to cause you problems.
Right. I was very interested to see the survival guide to high school, because last year I taught high school, and I was like, well, I'm going to be interested to see like what they think would do. And the fact that the first thing in bold, or the second thing in bold, says, don't be an idiot. Well, okay, that's how you're going to start your survival guide to high school.
I know.
Yeah.
Or like, don't let problems at home affect you. I don't know anybody more emotional than teenagers. Like, that's not even possible.
Right.
I think the only thing that tops it is pregnant women. So.
Right. And take pictures so that you can remember all the good stuff. They take pictures of everything, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, they don't stop taking pictures. Don't do drugs at school, but if you're going to do them, at least make sure you can handle it.
Right.
It's terrible advice. Like
terrible advice, but they think it's phenomenal advice, and it goes back to saying like they think they know everything, but do they really?
Which kind of goes to show that like the narrator determines the story, right? Like.
Right. High school is not like Mean Girls. Like, okay. Although that was 12 years ago now at this point. Like, let's have a different movie reference.
Seriously. Know who your true friends are and pick them wisely. Okay, for all of us who've already left high school, how many of us have our true friends are still all from high school? Like
0.
Yeah,
0.
I have 1. Like.
Right. Or don't get into a relationship, or don't date somebody that makes you feel like shit. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's called life. And
right.
I've never yet to meet a teenager who isn't going to get in a relationship. So.
Right. Make sure you thoroughly research your high school. Well, a lot of kids don't have that option. They're either going to that high school or they're going to that high school. They don't have an option.
Or like, I grew up somewhere where there's literally one high school for all of us. There's no choice. What are you going to do? Go to school 3 hours away? Like.
Right. So like some of the advice is, like maybe.
So, but I just think it's such it takes me back. It helps me kind of remember like what it was like before I was, a college graduate and married and 2 kids and
I mean,
all that.
This one is definitely something that a lot of kids do, and it plays with the teacher for a few seconds and it drives me crazy. If a teacher is asking for a homework assignment, pick up your bag, look confused and angry, and dig through your bag frantically. Like, well, okay, at least pretend like you gave it a try, but then the teacher's going to realize that you didn't.
And as somebody who works in the workforce with a lot of recent college graduates, it doesn't work when you have a boss.
Yeah, that doesn't work. So,
yeah. I think it's quite a story, though, and I think it paints quite an interesting story because some of these kids clearly lived it up in high school and were, high school is going to be remembered for them as the best time of their lives. And
right.
But they're sitting next to some kids who went through probably some of the worst things they're ever going to go through in life in high school instead of later in life.
Right. And I guess like sending out an inspirational, like, here's how you could have survived it, or here's what you should do to make it better, was what these guys thought was like the right idea.
Yeah.
So
I just think it made an interesting story. It makes me slightly terrified for my children to go to high school.
When your children become 18, you're like, but think about this, in at least 15 years.
Yeah.
So a lot can change because like we've said, a lot has changed in the last 15 years.
Exactly. So I don't know. I think high school sucks and is hard for most kids, and I think that's not changing.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to change too much.
But this is actually one of my favorite things that I've gone and looked through from our class.
This one was
such a really different cool look.
I did the Do Not Track one last week. That one was really cool. But this one was cool in a different way. This one was cool. It was more applicable. Like, actually, I shouldn't say that because the Do Not Track was very applicable. It was a little bit scary in that it's scary to know how easily all your information is out there on the internet. But I think this one was more applicable to me in the sense that I teach.
You teach these guys.
I teach kids, and it's like, oh, this is what they're going through. Yeah.
Since I work in business, I don't work with teenagers, but it just reminded me like I'm a parent, and so it was like, oh my gosh, this is what's coming.
This is what's coming. Be prepared.
This cute little thing is going to turn into a teenager.
Right. And then in 15 years, you'll go back, you'll watch this video again, and you'll say, oh yeah. Remember Snapchat? Now they have something else.
I know. Yeah. Well, I thought this was a good one. I was glad you picked this one. I hadn't even looked at it yet, and I was like, I don't even know what 18 in the Bay means.
I didn't either. I was clicking through. I was like, oh, that one, okay, let's see what it is. And then I was like, oh yeah, that's an interesting one. Let's just do it, get it over with. And
yeah. Well, it was great. And definitely interesting, and definitely a different perspective than one I would have had before.
Right. Like definitely worthwhile to put our feet in their shoes for 20 minutes. Figure it out from there.
Exactly. And I wish them all the best of luck because it doesn't seem like high school's gotten any easier since I was there.
Right. Well, and I wish them best of luck because clearly they think doing drugs before school is okay as long as they can handle it.
As long as you can handle it.
Okay. So, I'm trying to think if there was really anything else. I think we
hit it all. Yeah. Definitely an interesting one. Definitely a different way of creating a story online with a lot of different authors and perspectives.
It's so strange to me to consider this. Like, I know we're week 8 already, but like to consider this a digital story. My first and only, I guess, well, it shouldn't be my only now. It's my first experience with a digital story was very different than something like this. And so I don't picture, when I think digital story, I picture making a video that has voiceover.
Yeah.
That's what I picture as a digital story. Then as I've done more of these dialogues, I'm like, oh wait, that was a digital story too, because it told the story, but it's hard to like break that.
Me too. I mean, I took this to get like some different ideas with my background and work in marketing and communication in the business world. I wanted something to help me think differently, communicate differently, and kind of, think outside the box. And like, ooh, digital stories, like that's all the rage right now in marketing and everything. And then, but yeah, like videos or like little films for like Snapchat videos or Instagram stories is all I thought.
First assignment in one of my classes freshman year of college was to make a digital story. We had to make a video, have voiceover, pictures, moving. And I was like, so overwhelming to me. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And that's what I've always put with as a digital story, not realizing that
all these different little things are digital stories.
Right.
So So I'm loving it, but yeah, this is yet another way that I'm like, wow, this whole thing is a digital story, like all the pieces together. Like that might just be a Snapchat, that might just be a blog post, but when you put it all together, it's one whole
one story. Right.
Yeah.
So, it's really cool actually. So
it is. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for putting this together. And
no problem. I'll stop